I'd like to gavel in our regularly scheduled meeting for June 16, 2014. If you would all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Alderman Harper.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Robertson.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderman Toohey.
Here.
Alderman Leahy. Alderwoman Manister. Here. Alderwoman Saunders.
Here.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Actually, I have one change. If we could move a motion to move item 11G, which is our renewal of our excise commission renewal of our liquor licenses, up to, we'll make it 5. We'll put it before A. We'll move 11G. For that one change, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Now if I can motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, thank you. Next item, consideration approval of the minutes from the May 19, 2014 meeting. Any changes? Hearing none, you have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
So moved, Your Honor.
And second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, next item, 11G, Excise Commissioner. It's important that we get our liquor licenses approved as soon as possible, right, George?
Tonight is the annual renewal of all our liquor licenses. There's 25 total, and if I could just take a minute for the record, I'd like to read who they are. The first one is American Legion Golf Mall Post, Mobile on the Run, Artistic Affairs Catering, Bommarito Wines, Buffalo Wild Wings Bar and Grill, Clink, Cost Plus World Market, Deerbergs, Double D Lounge, Frank Papa's, Houlihan's, Hunan Walk, Iona, Atlantic Imports, Miley Restaurant, O.B. Clark's, Ramon's Macaroni Grill, Schnucks, Sideline Bar, Spring Hill Sweets, Target Store, Trader Joe's, Twin Oaks Woodfire, Walgreens, Whole Foods, and the William K. Bush Brewing Company. Everything is in order. All the licenses have been properly processed.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve the renewal of the current liquor licenses.
So moved, Your Honor, as submitted.
And second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Okay, I have two other items to bring to your attention. Number one, in the interest of time, Bonefish Grill and the Drury Inns and Suite plan to open sometime in July. And in order to not delay their opening, I'm asking for your approval to pass an ordinance to approve their liquor license pending on the issuance of their occupancy permit and their other permits.
Okay. So we have that ordinance on this evening, right?
Right.
Okay. So do we need to do anything? I guess we need to approve the liquor license.
Right.
Okay.
This
Do-
proves that there is no ordinance.
Yeah, there's not an ordinance for a liquor
Right.
license, right? Okay.
Your Honor, this is for both the grill and the hotel?
This is for Drury Inn and Bonefish Grill.
Okay.
Two separate.
Okay.
But Bonefish won't open until October.
Right.
Okay.
But it's,
Yeah, the hotel is in July.
right.
Okay. Does everybody understand that? Do I have a motion, please?
This is for them separately?
No, together.
Oh, together, the motion to approve the liquor license for the Drury Inn Hotel and the Bonefish Grill?
Right. And second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mayor.
George. Next item, presentation of the 2013 CAFR and annual audit.
Good evening. We performed an audit of the city's financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2013. Our responsibility is to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. On page 1 of the comprehensive annual financial report, you will find our independent auditor's report. And we went through these reports in more detail with the Ways and Means Committee a few weeks ago, so we're just going to briefly summarize our results this evening. We have issued an unmodified opinion, which means that in our opinion, the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. For the year ended December 31st, 2013, the city was required to implement GASB Statement Number 65. So as a result, the statement net position and balance sheet may now have a category called deferred outflows of resources and deferred inflows of resources, in addition to assets, liabilities, net position, and/or fund balance. The accounting change was applied retroactively. Therefore, beginning net position was restated to expense bond issuance costs that were previously amortized and discounted, or amortized and deferred over the life of the bonds. Page 43 discusses recent accounting pronouncements that will be required to be implemented in future years. And there are new pension standards that will be required to be implemented in 2015 that will have a significant effect on the government-wide financial statements of the city. We also performed a single audit, which is required when entities spend $500,000 or more in federal awards. On page 8 of that report summarizes our results. For the year ended December 31st, 2013, the program audited as major was a highway planning and construction grant. And in our opinion, the city complied in all material respects with the requirements applicable to that major federal program. In addition to the financial statements and single audit, we also issued a report on internal control-related matters and advisory comments. And this is where we provide various comments and suggestions for operating efficiency and improving internal controls. In that report, management's responses to our suggestions are included, and that report also provides a status of the prior year recommendations. We are pleased to report that the majority of the prior year recommendations were implemented or are in the process of being implemented. And given the volume of the findings and recommendations in the prior year, we are very pleased with the city's progress. The final report provided to you is a report to the Board of Aldermen, and this provides various communications that are required by professional standards. And I wanted to commend the city administrator and the director of finance for all their hard work and dedication that went into preparing for the audit, preparing the comprehensive annual financial report, and assisting us during the audit. And at this time, we'd be happy to answer any questions anyone may have or go over any reports in more detail.
Anybody? Alderman Saunders?
Could you please just go in detail specifically what your concern is with the library?
Oh, we don't currently have a concern with the library. Our comment mentioned in the prior report was that the library could potentially be broken out separate from the city if the city so desired. There are various regulations and standards over that, and there is various professional judgment that is required as well. So the city has opted to leave the library in, and so that is acceptable as well, as it could be broken out separate. So we did not repeat our recommendation to consider it, because the city had considered it.
If they're broken out separately, they have to maintain their own cash deposits and so forth, don't they? The library?
They would just be reported separately. They would have their own financial statements. They would have their own financial statements. They wouldn't be a part of the primary government of the city. Not to say that the city can't provide these services for them.
Okay. So do they have their own financial statements? I think that they do. I know that the library...
Well, but they would be handling all of their own, they would be handling their own payroll, all of those processes. Is that correct, then, if they're independent from the city? Is that what you're saying?
That would have to be evaluated. I mean,
Right.
each thing that we're talking about would have to be evaluated. We were specifically talking about the external financial statements.
Okay, all right. But it would still be more costly for the library to have their own, and then have their own audit and so forth.
Yes.
Right.
So their money, though, is in with it's pooled in with ours. We just track it for them. I know they have difficulty getting their account list. One of the members on the committee had said when they need their, I guess that's their bills from the city. So I'm just wondering, how separate are we? I mean, I seem to
I don't
think...
know
I'm
what
not
that
sure
means.
I understand.
What
Well,
you
when we
mean.
get back to the tax rate again, because that'll be coming up before we know it, they can make a recommendation, but it's still our purview to set it. Is that correct?
They make a recommendation, yes, the city sets the rate for them.
Right.
But to your earlier comment, having difficulty getting a list of their accounts, that request goes to the library director.
Oh,
So
I'll
if there's that
clarify.
request, it should go to the library director.
She said from the city, but I will check the account list from the city, I guess, when they're approving it. I know that she gets the same benefits as our employees. They brought that before the library board. So we're really commingled with them. And just like the pension fund, they will make a recommendation, but we set the rate. And I believe it's the same with the library.
So, okay, what does that have to do with the audit?
No, they mentioned it. It's general accounting consideration. It was number Q on the internal controls and advisory comments. So I just kind of wanted to understand their concern.
Well, I think they said they didn't have a concern, there was just a recommendation, that we could do that.
It was a
Again,
follow-up
this
to
is
the
the way the
prior year
cities function with the
recommendation.
library since they were established, so, and I don't know that there's ever been an issue, so. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Alderman Kramer.
if I could make a
Oh.
comment. You guys don't have to be there, it's okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to compliment Showalter and Jaburi on the not only the quality of the report, but I guess the completeness of the recommendations and the ability for our dialogue to be handled so well and so professionally. I was at the last meeting, we had a chance to go through the expenditures of federal awards, the report on internal controls, the compliance issues, and the recommendations and the internal controls, and have a dialogue about that with the auditors, and address those items that the city has fully complied with and taken the recommendations of and moved forward significantly. Anyway, it was an excellent opportunity. It was an excellent report, and a call to everyone's attention on page 15 towards the bottom of the actual audit itself. You'll see the general fund's unassigned balance is in excess of our current policy for the reserve for the city. I think we have reason to be very happy about the monies that we have in our reserves. Thank you so much.
Great. Next item, item B, internal controls audit. We have a presentation as well.
Yes, Jim Schmershall with Schmershall Tree Lore and Steve Trippy.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Jim Schmershall. I am a partner with the CPA firm Schmershall Trelore. Our firm has been engaged to provide an internal control and financial policy review of the city's controls and to provide that to you. This is in the nature of a status report. With me is Steve Trippy, who is a CPA and is a part of the engagement team as an audit manager. With me is Linda Hotteshell, who is a CPA and a CIA, which does not mean she's been spying on your people, but does mean that she is a certified internal auditor, and Andy DiTillo, who is also a CPA and audit supervisor. And that group of four has been the team that has been diligently working with your staff, principally with your city administrator, Bola, and the director of finance, Gina, as well as the rest of your staff. I have to tell you, at least to date, we have received the complete and absolute cooperation of your staff. We have had no disputes over access to information. To be candid, we were somewhat prepared for muck and mire based upon some of that which we have seen in the past, and we were pleasantly surprised at the level and extent of controls that are now in place, pleasantly surprised and impressed by the city's response to the previous findings, the response of your staff, the response of all of you to ensure that these items were dealt with. And so we have been able to observe and test detailed implementation of many of those items which have been previously brought to your attention and the corrective actions that have taken place. So all of that, of course, we've now taken into account and we'll be ultimately reviewing and with all of you when we deliver our final report. We have been deliberate in our study of the controls because this is important, deliberate in our study of policies and procedures. Although premature to review it in detail with you at this time, our work is nearing completion. The next step this month or early next is to sit down and review in detail with Ways and Means the specific findings, recommendations, enhancements, those areas that we think may need a little more attention, those areas that we may want to discuss but don't necessarily require additional action because there has to be some balance to your policies in terms of cost benefit and the number of bodies you want to have in your office. So all of those things we'll be reviewing in detail with your Ways and Means, and then subsequently bringing to this body for a report and your ultimate receipt and affirmation. We expect to have comments regarding employee handbook policies. We expect to have other comments regarding a handful of enhanced controls and policies and procedures that we believe should be in place. We expect to have a couple of policies with regard to strengthening the municipal courts and the controls around that. And then ultimately, we'll be delivering an accounting policy manual, which will encompass your existing policies and procedures, take into consideration our work, the work and the response to the work of the state auditors, as well as the work of your other outside auditors and your staff's work. And so all of that seems to be moving as it should be. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the extent of my report, other than to tell you that right before I walk in, the U.S. did win 2-1 in the World Cup.
Excellent news.
Any questions? Alderwoman Saunders.
So have you given any preliminary reports to anyone in the city yet? I mean, nobody's seen. I have heard from the February city administrator, starting in mid-December and concluding the first part of January, Shemarshal Treelor met and interviewed department heads and key staff. At present, they are in the process of reviewing the outcome of the interviews, and then it goes on to say what your procedures are, and now it's June 16th. It seems like that's a long time to not hear anything. Or have you reviewed the preliminary results with the department heads? That's one of the formulate a list of recommendations to be discussed with department heads. Request that department heads provide feedback on the recommendations, determine if they are easily implemented. Will we get that? That list said that we'll get all of the recommendations you make, even if we don't accept them, because like you said, cost benefit. Is there anything we can see now, or any preliminary information? I did a sunshine request because I was surprised that we engaged you in August and here we are in June and we hadn't seen anything. So I was just wondering, have you been giving draft copies or preliminary to anyone?
Thank you. Yes, we have been deliberate. We have reviewed findings with department heads to ensure that our initial preliminary understanding and review was reflective of that which is in place, and to give them an opportunity to speak to it. We've also had an opportunity to meet with the city administrator, the director of finance, with the judge and his clerk to review some items and to further sharpen the focus. So all those items, ma'am, have been moving forward, and we would expect to review that in great detail with Ways and Means. We'll leave it to Ways and Means and I guess this body to decide how much detail in addition to that you all wish to see. We're absolutely available to spend as much time with this board in addition to Ways and Means as you would like. But there's been...
I just was asking, if it's possible to get some of the drafts or what you've supplied, but I guess I have to wait till next month.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, even though I did a sunshine request for any drafts or that, so, okay. Because I was told they didn't exist, so.
Well, we might not have them, right? Or, right?
Okay. The other thing is, can you please tell me the purpose of an audit committee? And why does the AICPA and the GFOA...
Why don't we bring that up at Ways and Means instead of
Well,
having...
no. This is internal controls. That's the audit committee is an internal control. And why do they recommend having governing members on the body of the audit committee? What is the purpose of the audit committee?
Well, the purpose of the audit committee, at the risk of speaking the obvious, is to interface with the auditors, to ensure that the audit report is and recommendations from the auditors are received and evaluated by a group who has that as their focus and who has the expertise to understand, assimilate, and have dialogue with the auditor, and then come back to the board and make recommendations regarding those comments. Now, if I may continue, there are any number of permutations of that within organizations. There are organizations who have separate audit committees. There are organizations that have a finance committee instead of an audit committee, some that have an audit committee and a finance committee, some that use Ways and Means. There are some cities that actually serve as a committee of the whole and simply have the entire body receive the audit report as its initial read, and that's the way in which they manage it. So there is no necessarily right or wrong way to do so. As organizations get larger, the larger you get, the more likely it is for that organization to begin to puddle up those functions. And so you find more often, the larger the organization, the more likely they are to have a separate embodied audit committee.
But are governing members on that audit committee?
Again, there is no specific requirement one way or the other. Many times there will be one or more representatives of the oversight board on the audit committee, not necessarily, but many times. Also, when you have an audit committee, there's an expectation that you would look out and find individuals within the community with specific expertise, so that they may not necessarily be on this board or on whatever board, but would have specific expertise to lend to the audit committee, in this case to the city, which would then be transmitted back to the board by the member sitting on that committee, or by the chair if it's set up in that fashion.
Okay.
So the chair of that committee may not necessarily be the representative of this board, and then the chair would report to this committee.
Okay. So then I guess the recommendations by all of these, and our own auditors said that they would recommend at least 3 members. They're just not valid recommendations.
Well, I would never say they aren't valid recommendations. I would simply say that there is no mandate, that there
Okay.
is no...
There's not a mandate.
There's no requirement to have that.
Right.
It may, in fact, be an appropriate policy for this city.
The independence is to create, not independence from us, it's independence from management and staff, correct? I mean, you're supposed to be able to talk to your audit committee that are very knowledgeable.
We're getting into philosophies of an audit committee, and that's really not what this is about. This is about evaluation of our internal controls. If we want to have that discussion, another meeting, let's have that. Do you have any more questions specifically to the internal control audit?
Just if there's any drafts that exist that have been delivered to the city, I'd like a copy.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Next item, we have a presentation on the Climate Action Plan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Matt D'Angelo, and I've been the climate action intern for the last several months, working with the U.S. Green Building Council and with BOLA and Ben Von Hartz. First off, I'd like to thank the City of Brentwood for participating in the Regional Environmental Internship Program and for hearing me speak tonight. So first off, I'd like to talk about the purpose of climate action planning. It's to guide development and investment in the context of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So basically, through this process, I came up with a list of available options for the City of Brentwood to pursue, highlighting the costs, the ease of implementation, et cetera. A background on climate change. So GHGs, or greenhouse gases, occur naturally. Human activity has increased greenhouse gas concentration through deforestation and through burning of fossil fuels. And as a result, excess heat has been trapped in the atmosphere, leading to climate change. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding the science behind climate change, but a profusion of research has come out recently showing that it is happening, particularly the Midwest is getting warmer. It's gone up by about 1.5 degrees in the last 100 years or so. And this is likely to lead to a cascade of problems that might affect Brentwood. Things like increased temperatures, drought, flooding, extreme weather, vector diseases, decreased air quality, decreased water security, food security, public health, and activity. So the first part of the internship was completed by Ron Moreland, which was the completion of a greenhouse gas inventory. And Ron found that the vast majority of emissions in Brentwood were coming from the built environment. Here I have them listed as residential, industrial, and commercial, separated into those three. A significant portion also came from transportation, namely from automobiles, and a very small percent came from things like waste and water. He also did a local government GHG inventory, which showed again that the majority of emissions were coming from buildings and facilities, about 65%, with significant portions also coming from outdoor lighting, employee commute, and the vehicle fleet. So the inventory concluded several things. First, potential for efficiency increase exists, particularly within the built environment and the transportation sector. Emission reductions lead to environmental and economic benefit. And last, public engagement is key to large-scale emission reductions. And the reason I include that one is because the inventory revealed that 98% of emissions came from the community as a whole, whereas only 2% came from local government. So engaging the public is going to be key. So my process of climate action planning involved first reviewing a whole bunch of different plans from surrounding communities in the St. Louis region and finding some potential strategies that might work for Brentwood, and then picking through those and looking at a cost-benefit analysis, seeing how much they would cost to implement, what kind of incentives were available, what kind of grant opportunities were available, et cetera. And then based off of this analysis and off of other targets set in the St. Louis region, I propose a carbon reduction target of 10% by 2025 and 20% by 2040. Fortunately, Brentwood does have a bunch of current initiatives that can be built on. First off, the 2006 Comprehensive Plan includes much information about mixed-use development and pedestrian-oriented development. The Bikeable, Walkable Communities Plan is another great example. The Recycling Becomes Me campaign can be built on. The Green Living section on the city website is a great source for information for residents. And as I understand it, City Hall has some high-efficiency lighting updates occurring currently. So the plan overview, it's separated into 6 parts. First, preliminary actions, then policy planning and overarching strategies, the community-wide built environment, community-wide transportation, local government operations, and then other measures, which are just miscellaneous that didn't fit into any of the above. So the basic plan format then, it's kind of hard to see on the overhead, but I describe each strategy, and then I try to give the numbers surrounding it. And then I give potential steps to implementation that the city might want to consider pursuing. So here, I obviously can't read every single strategy that I recommended. There's a whole bunch of them. But I am going to highlight one from each section to give an idea. So preliminary actions, it would be establish oversight for plan implementation. And one of the steps to implementation I recommend is to create a citizen-led environmental task force. So somebody that will, or a group of citizens that would report to city council and help to advise on the implementation of the plan. In part 1, I say uphold sustainable development practices. So again, this has to do with utilizing the comprehensive plan and use mixed-use zoning and using pedestrian-oriented development. Part 2, I say maintain energy efficiency codes current with International Energy Conservation Code updates. Out of all the measures I looked at, this was the most impactful single measure and actually accounted for something like 65% of the proposed emission reductions. And then this would bring Brentwood in line with St. Louis City and other surrounding communities. Community-wide transportation, I say connect commuters to public transportation, which again is being done to an extent with the Bikeable, Walkable Communities Plan. Part 4, I say adopt a green construction policy. So that would be something like establishing minimum requirements for new construction for city buildings. So that might be Energy Star or LEED certification. And then Part 5, other measures. So yeah, that concludes my presentation on the plan. Any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Does anybody have any questions? Lee?
I just want to say, I don't buy your climate stuff, but I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I'm not against anything you're doing, but I think the old Earth will be around as long as we need it.
Well, in response to that too, I mean, whether you accept it or not, I did try to include kind of the economic benefit behind each thing, each strategy as well. So hopefully it makes some sort of economic sense.
Well, I'm not here to I'm not opposing what you say. I'm not saying all these things aren't good. I just am not ready to accept a lot that's going on.
Sure, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. Alderman Kramer?
Yes, Your Honor. Matthew, thanks for all your hard work. A couple of things I took note of. One was the idling policy, which can be implemented. I think perhaps our city may not be there yet, but some others have already gone to that location.
Right.
But you talked about the LED retrofitting on the streetlights.
Right.
With Ameren, I noticed that there was the block grant ability for the municipalities. It seems, is Ameren opposed to that? To you, can they access the funds? Does the city access the funds? How does that work?
Well, as far as, so the recommendation I make with Ameren, at the current point in time, Ameren, they will not install LED lights. So the recommendation I'm making is to work with Ameren. There's other cities that are currently trying to work with Ameren. Baldwin, Missouri is an example of one, to promote LED streetlights and do some kind of research into a feasibility study. So that's kind of a future strategy that would be more advocating for that option right now.
So it's the city that would apply for the grant, and then they would work with Ameren to utilize those funds?
Right, as I understand it, yes.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Next item, we have a number of public hearings tonight, so I will gavel in the first public hearing for a petition to amend Chapter 25, Article 6, Division 8 of the Brentwood flood zone regulations. How's that?
Thank you, Your Honor. As you mentioned, the first petition this evening includes changes to Chapter 25, Article 6, Division 8 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances as it pertains to flood hazard control regulations. These changes are the changes that are specifically identified through FEMA and the State Emergency Management Agency to basically meet the minimum requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. So we have two petitions this evening. This one deals with only the changes required to meet the minimum requirements of the Flood Insurance Program. The changes within this ordinance include updating references to the current flood insurance study in Section 25-477, updating references to the map and panel numbers in cross-reference sections in Section 25-479, modification to the structure of Section 25-494 pertaining to recreational vehicles, and the addition of several terms to be defined within Section 25-503. Again, these changes do not include the two definition changes to substantial damage and substantial improvement. Those are in a later bill. There are other definitions that were added that are included in the ordinance itself. This request was originally before the Board of Aldermen on May 5th. At that time, the board directed that the petition go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, split in half into the two parts, and have the P&Z make a recommendation on the two separate bills. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review Bill 5866, which imposes changes to meet the National Flood Insurance Program requirements, and they did recommend approval by a vote of 8-0.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Now I'll open up to the public if anybody'd like to address the board with respect to this petition.
Hello, I'm Gene Holtzman with Hutkin Development Company. We manage over 200,000 square feet of commercial real estate in the city of Brentwood. And I will be brief on this and on the other bill as well. But I guess my question for you is if you would rather me speak on both bills now or in the sequence of the public hearing.
All right, just go ahead and take this one first.
Then we support this bill. That's simple enough. Thank you.
Great.
Hello, my name's Daniel Hollander. We own a property at 2646 Dorothy. I'd just like some clarification on this. It reads in here, Section 2, parentheses, text added is underlined. And it also says Section 1, text added is bolded and underlined. And I don't see anything bolded or underlined except for the headings. Does that mean that the whole section is added? Could you just clarify?
Are you making reference to the bill itself?
Yeah, the bill reads in section 1, in the heading, text added is bold and underlined. And then in the heading on section 2, it says text added is underlined, but the only thing I see bold or underlined is the heading. So does that mean that the whole section? I just don't understand what that means. If you could clarify that for me?
Was that to your memo? But go ahead.
Yeah.
It was making reference to his memo.
The reference to the bold and underline goes to the changes that are included in the rationale that was prepared for the board. Within the ordinance itself, that's incorrect, and this is the full section as it would appear in the code is what is in the ordinance before the board.
So there's no like before and after in this?
Not in the actual bill. That's the way the law would be passed with that verbiage. You don't put the,
Thank you.
The bill includes the changes. The bill includes the changes.
Well, but you don't show the negative. I mean, that's, okay. Okay, no other comments? We'll close that public hearing. Second public hearing is for another amendment to Chapter 25.
So the second public hearing this evening is amending the same section, which is Article 25, Article 6, Division 8 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances, as it relates to the regulations for the flood hazard control regulations within the city. This is the second portion that was previously discussed at the May 5th Board of Alderman meeting. This ordinance includes the non-required changes that would exceed the minimum requirements for the National Flood Insurance Program, that would also help the city in pursuit of becoming a community rating system community. Again, this was at the board on May 5th. The board sent it back to P&Z for them to vote on this as two separate items. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review this as a separate item. They failed to pass a motion to recommend approval, with one member voting in favor of the change and 7 members voting against the change. And as such, we would need a 3/4 vote of the Board of Aldermen to overturn the recommendation and put the changes into place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'll open up to the public. Gene, if it'll help you keep it short, I think we're in agreement with you, but go ahead.
That's the primary thing. So if that's the case, it's just simply, obviously, we oppose this for all the reasons that we probably exhaustively in great detail already discussed. And just very, very simply, we believe that instead of having the intended effect, it will have a world of unintended consequences that will cause a cycle of disinvestment and disincentive to invest in properties that will have an obviously serious chain reaction of negative effects. Thank you.
Thanks, Gene.
I would echo Mr. Holtzman.
Your name and
Daniel Hollander, 2646 Dorothy. I would echo Mr. Holtzman's comments. The matter was discussed extensively over several meetings at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and many questions were asked that the time constraints here do not allow for. Most of those questions didn't really have any good answers, so I would urge the board to please follow the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Committee. Thank you.
Okay. Close that public hearing. Open the third petition for conditional use permit.
Thank you. This petition is for a conditional use permit to operate a concierge auto sales use at 1439 Strassner Road. The subject site is approximately 3.1 acres in size and is zoned PD. There are currently 2 existing buildings on the site, totaling approximately 67,000 square feet. The applicant proposes to move into the westernmost building, which is currently utilized as the Lander Binder building, is the westernmost building. They're going to use an existing office space within that building. It's approximately 90 square feet for an appointment-based auto sales use. This use, it's very similar to a use that was before the city back in January of this year, I believe. So it's not a traditional car lot where they're going to have inventory on the site. Essentially, someone would contact Mr. Lander and say, I'm looking for this type of a vehicle. He would go out, he would find the vehicle, he would maybe have it on the lot for a day or two, and then use the office for basically a formal office for the transaction and for the paperwork, and most importantly, to have a bona fide location to get a automotive license through the state to sell vehicles. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the proposal. They did recommend approval of it with conditions by a vote of 8-0. Those conditions are reflected in the conditional use permit that is before the board. But just to run through them very quickly, that there would be no signage permitted on any vehicles, which would advertise vehicles for sale on the lot. Vehicle inventory shall not be placed in a manner that prevents safe and efficient circulation or impede emergency access. No vehicle would be permitted to be on the site for more than 30 days, and no more than 3 vehicles for sale shall be on the lot at any one time.
Great. Okay. Open up to the public. If anybody has any comments with respect to this conditional use permit, please come forward and give us your name and address. Hearing none, close the public hearing. Move into next one, a petition to amend Chapter 6.
The final petition this evening is, oh, no, not the final. The second to last one is a petition to amend Chapter 6 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances as it pertains to the various building codes that are adopted within the city of Brentwood. Specifically, this ordinance would repeal the 2003 editions of the International Residential Code, International Building Code, International Mechanical Code, International Plumbing Code, International Existing Building Code, International Fuel Gas Code, International Energy Conservation Code, International Property Maintenance Code, and the International Fire Code, and would update to the 2009 version or editions of those codes. And in addition, it would repeal the 2005 National Electrical Code and adopt the 2008 edition of the National Electrical Code. In a nutshell, this would essentially bring us into conformance with what the majority of the other municipalities around us currently utilize. In the previous presentation on the Climate Action Plan, this was actually one of their recommendations, was for us to come into compliance with a new building code, or to adopt a new building code, which would have an impact on this. So the timing of it kind of works out well for us. The Public Works Committee did review the proposal, and they have recommended approval of the updates to the city's codes to regulate building construction.
Great. Again, I will open up to the public if anybody has any recommendations with respect to the new building codes. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and open the last public hearing for our community development block grant funds, our program.
So this time, the last public hearing this evening, as part of our process and part of our working with St. Louis County and through the federal government, we're required to have a public hearing each year on, this will be for the fiscal year 2015 allocation of the city's allotment of the community development block grant funds. As it's been relayed to us at this point, the city's allotment would be again $20,000, which is the same we've had for the last several years. We do have a public hearing handout that is provided. It's on the table outside, so if anybody has any information on it, I would encourage them to grab that. We also do have a sign-in sheet over on the edge here. If there's any member in the audience that is here tonight on behalf of the public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant Program, we would ask them to please sign into that, because that's all part of our reporting to the county and ultimately to the federal government to continue to receive these funds. Under this program, essentially, the city has for at least the past 7 or 8 years put the money, the city's allotment, the $20,000, into a 100% forgivable loan program for home improvements on the site. Essentially what this does is it allows income-eligible residents a forgivable loan, 100% forgivable loan, up to $5,000 to do improvements on their home. Improvements could be a new roof, it could be new siding, anything that would qualify, they could come in for that. From 2010 through 2012, the full allotment of the $20,000 has been utilized. They generally get utilized as a, one project, $5,000, they hit the cap. So it's generally been 4 projects a year that the city has seen used on that. For 2013, we've had $5,000 spent, but the county is currently in the process of qualifying 3 additional residents that would get that remaining $15,000. And then there are currently 10 residents that are on the waiting list for the 2014 program that would be available for funding for this fiscal year. And then the remainder of those would be eligible for the program that we're talking about now in fiscal year 2015.
Okay. Does anybody in the audience have any comments with respect to the development block grant? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Next item, bids. We have 2 this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. With the absence of the Brentwood dispatchers, we now find that there is a need to have a Sallyport intercom so that officers from other agencies who come to our Sallyport to pick up prisoners have access to that facility. The intercom will allow them to communicate with the East Central Dispatch Center, and that would alert our officers to come and give them access to the building. We went out for quotes. The first one was submitted by Will Electronics at $1,893.22. The second quote was submitted by Tech Electronics at $3,465. The low and best bid is Will Electronics. The second item on here, when the agreement was made to go with East Central Dispatch to provide dispatching for the city of Brentwood, there were a number of video monitoring systems that were required at that time, primarily in our holding facility. An option was that we would provide additional video monitoring for this room during board meetings, the Sallyport entrance, and the booking area. We feel that now is an appropriate time, since the June 2nd date has passed, to go ahead and activate additional cameras for that. The recommendation is that since Will Electronics was selected to provide the hostess solution, that we go ahead and purchase additional cameras with Will Electronics. There will be no specific agreement, but you will see this on the warrant list.
Okay. So everybody understand that? Okay. All right. Thank you. Next item, hearing of any matters of public interest upon any persons present. If anybody would like to address the Board of Aldermen, please give us your name and address. Hearing none, we'll move on to introduction, reading, and passage of bills. If I can have a motion for the first and second readings of bills number 5866, 5867, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, and 86. 87, 88, 89, and 90. First and second readings only.
So moved, Your Honor.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is Bill 5866 remaining on hold?
No,
No.
sir.
Okay.
It comes off.
So I have motion to take Bill number
Your Honor,
5866 off hold.
Your Honor, the motion was to go ahead and do first and second readings of those bills.
Either way, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. First reading, Bill number 5866.
First reading Bill number 5866 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 25-477, Section 25-479, Section 25-494, and Section 25-503 as it relates to flood hazard control, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5866, the Flood Hazard Control Bill, Planning and Zoning, City of Brentwood, case number 14-04-01. Changes to in Bill 5866 represented are critical in maintaining good standing with FEMA on the city's participation in the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP. This ordinance has the required language needed to address the current deficiencies in the city's flood hazard ordinance. After review, our Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the changes required to meet minimum requirements for the National Flood Insurance Program by an a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5866 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 25-477, Section 25-479, Section 25-494, and Section 25-503 as it relates to flood hazard control, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Motion is made and second to perfect Bill Number 5866 into ordinance form. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robinson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Bill number 5866 is now ordinance number 4243.
First reading, Bill Number 5867.
First reading, Bill Number 5867 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 25-503 as it relates to definitions of flood hazard control terms, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Separate Bill 5867, Flood Hazard Control, is the case number for the City of Brentwood's P&Z 14-0402. This ordinance contains changes to the terms substantial damage and substantial improvement. These changes are not required minimum standards under the NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program, however, are proposed to further the city's enrollment in the Community Rating System, CRS. After review, our city's Planning and Zoning Commission failed to recommend approval of the changes to adopt a cumulative standard for substantial improvement and substantial damage by a vote of 1 to 7.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5867 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 25-503 as it relates to definitions of flood hazard control terms, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. You have a motion, please?
Your
Alderman
Honor,
Kramer.
as is required, the motion made in the affirmative for perfection of Bill 5867 as submitted.
And
Second, Your Honor.
Okay. Again, just so everybody understands, these would be the substantial changes that would change that the property owners have concern with, and sort of P&Z. So, roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
No.
Alderman Nguyen?
No.
Alderman Robinson?
No.
Alderman Kramer?
No.
Alderman Tui?
No.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderwoman Bannister?
No.
Okay, thank you. First reading, Bill Number 5880.
Ordinance, Your Honor.
First
Oh, I'm
reading, Bill.
sorry. Ordinance.
Octavia? Ordinance number?
I'm sorry.
It failed.
Oh, it failed, you're right. Thank you.
00.
First reading, Bill 5880.
First reading, Bill Number 5880 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute the attached municipal corporation agreement for the Community Development Block Grant Program and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5880, the municipal cooperation agreements for the Community Development Block Grant Program. Every 3 years, municipal cooperation agreements for the Community Development Block Grant Program either automatically are renewed or must be re-signed to take part. The next cooperation period is fiscal year 2015 to 2017. New agreements must be signed due to new language requirements being enforced by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Bill 5880.
Thank you. Alderman Kramer.
Leahy.
Or Leahy, I'm sorry.
If I may, Justin, we have 10 people on the waiting list for this year. In layman's terms, how does the county go about selecting which 4 out of the 10 would be acceptable?
I believe it's a first come, first
Served arrangement.
So if you come in, if you're an eligible recipient and you come in and there's 6 people in front of you, you go to number 7, and you're just, when you come in line, they don't weight the criteria. If you meet the eligibility requirements, you get put on the list.
And if I may, when you use the term a forgivable loan, the recipient of the block grant must own the house
Correct.
and stay in the house and stay current on the taxes for the next 4 years.
I believe it's 5 years.
And then they get 20% dropped off every year as long as they stay there.
That is correct.
That's the way they get a forgivable loan.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5880 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute the attached municipal cooperation agreement for the Community Development Block Grant Program and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Motion, please.
Motion to perfect Bill 5880 into ordinance form.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
Got a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Bannister.
Yes.
Bill number 5880 is now ordinance number 4244.
Thank you. First reading of Bill Number 5881.
First reading, Bill Number 5881 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an amended agreement on behalf of the City of Brentwood, Missouri with Cunningham Recreation and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5881, the amendment to the Oak Tree Park Agreement. At our March 3rd, 2014 Board of Aldermen meeting, our Bill 5838 then became Ordinance 4501. That authorized the mayor or city administrator to execute an agreement with Cunningham Recreation for the design and installation of a new program and playground at Oak Tree Park. It was passed. However, the attorney for Cunningham Recreation contacted the city requesting changes to that contract. These changes have now been reviewed and revised by our city attorney Albrecht, who has given us approval to move forward with the revised contract. Also included in the changes is the cost of the performance bond in the amount of $6,400, which will be included as a change order. Our Public Works Committee has reviewed and recommended approval of Bill 5881.
Thank you. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5881 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an amended agreement on behalf of the City of Brentwood, Missouri with Cunningham Recreation and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Motion, please.
Your Honor, move to perfect Bill 5881 into ordinance form.
Second.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Leahy, second by Alderman Bannister. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Bannister.
Yes.
Bill number 5881 is now ordinance number 4245.
Thank you. First reading, Bill Number 5882.
First reading, Bill Number 5882 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a memorandum of understanding between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and the International Association of Firefighters Local 2665 and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis.
Your Honor, our Bill 5882 covers a memorandum of understanding for the non-high-definition cable service for the Fire Department, City of Brentwood. This memorandum of understanding and between our city and the International Association of Firefighters Local 2665 at the Brentwood Fire Department is for non-high-definition HD cable service not to exceed $65 per month.
Okay. Any discussion? Could we, since we're defining the type of cable, could we strike the amount? Because if the amount changes next year, then we're going to have to come back and do a new ordinance, or is that something that they?
I think you're right.
I think we just go by the service, not the cost. So if I give a motion to remove the not to exceed
Also
cost.
move to remove the financial amount.
In second.
Your Honor,
Second.
Was that-
I'll second it.
Discuss it.
no, I'm not making the second.
Okay, no second fails.
No,
It's just that next year we'll probably have to come back.
Keith-
All right, you second, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Alderman Leahy.
If we remove the cost limitation, how do we define that we're offering the basic package versus something higher than that?
Be
Well, I think they have the basic, I mean, it's for the non-high definition. cable service, and I think they categorize it that way. That's why we put it in there.
Charter did.
And so,
You're talking to somebody that does not have cable,
Right.
so you have to educate me.
there's a lot of different tiers of the cable service. This
Yeah.
is the basic service package.
Yeah.
And so,
It's broken up that way.
You're
yeah,
right.
it's just, yeah.
So the $65 does not really control what package we're giving. You're using the terms
Right.
as being the controlling of it.
Right.
So the all-inclusive premier package, I guess if I'm using the right term, isn't what the city is offering them. This is just a basic cable connection
Right.
to work with.
You can be well over 100 if you'd like.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Alderman Kramer.
My own personal experience with Charter, who is probably not the most efficient or inexpensive provider of entertainment services.
Well, actually, this is UVerse, so
Is
that's,
it?
that's why we switched. Charter started charging us, so that's what brought this forward, so.
There you
Did
go.
did we get a price, and a quote? How did we get the 65?
Actually, the amount we're paying for this service is less than 65.
Yeah, it wasn't to exceed this number, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But I just didn't want to have to come back in a year or two and have another
Because
ordinance.
after the initial year, there's a possibility, as we all have experienced, those rates can go up.
More than a
But this is UVerse,
Okay.
to be a reality.
okay? So the motion was to remove the not to exceed portion of this bill. Does
Your
everybody
Honor?
understand? Alderman Kramer?
I'm sorry, before you get to that point, we have the memo that's attached that's signed off on by their local member. Do we now have to change that as well? That has
I don't think that that would
$65.
necessarily affect that,
They probably will be in agreement, but this
Right.
is something we'd have to take back to them.
right?
And if they refuse to sign it, then we'll bring it back to the board.
Right. I would just say go ahead and pass it. I doubt that they're going to argue with that.
Your Honor, I'll agree with Alderman Kramer. If we're going to change the memo before the board makes a passage, I would like to run it through the union and at least let them know, because we've changed a signed document that they've signed.
Okay, I won't sign it until they agree to it, but again, why do you want to duplicate, have the city produce another bill and go to that expense if they're going to agree to it?
Why don't we just pass it like it
Right,
is?
that's what I said, pass it, if they don't agree to it, we'll have to bring it back anyway.
No, I'm saying, why don't we just pass it like it's written? Come back
Well,
in a year,
again,
do it
because
again.
then in a year or two, you're probably going to have to come back and have to do another ordinance.
Yeah, it's just like everything else.
Well, but why wouldn't you, would it be more efficient? So, okay, the motion was, we have first and second to remove the not to exceed number. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
No.
Alderman Tui?
No.
Alderman Leahy?
Yeah, I go along with it, yes.
Alderman Bannister?
No.
Okay, so that was 4-3. Okay, so it got removed. Okay. Now, second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5882 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a memorandum of understanding between the city of Brentwood, Missouri, and the International Association of Firefighters Local 2665, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Alderman Kramer?
Your Honor, just for the record, while I had no problem with the original Bill 5882, since we now have a conflict between the existing memo and the bill, I'm sorry, I can't vote in favor of it. That's all I have. Thanks.
Great. Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that.
And
I'll second it.
Thank you. First and second, roll call, please.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Alderman Harper.
Your Honor, may I ask a question for just consideration? Other than the fire department receiving this cable package, does the city offer any other employee group within the city of Brentwood cable package?
No?
No.
We don't have any other groups that spend 48 hours a day here.
This is a negotiated.
Understand, I just wanted to make that clear and put it in the record,
And just so
please.
the public understands, this
Yes.
is brought to, this, I wouldn't say became an issue, but up until January or the end of December of 2013, Charter had provided cable service to the city for free under an agreement that we had from a number of years ago, which included basically all of the cable service for the entire city, including the fire department, including all of the premium channels or whatever, or the most of them. So once they decided they weren't going to provide that service, we had to put that out to bid again. became UVerse was going to be cheaper than charter. Now that we have a union fire department, that became an item that we needed to negotiate in order to provide that service for the firemen, which I don't necessarily personally agree with, but that's the process that we went through. And so that's why we're entering into this agreement to provide, again, this basic service for the firemen. If they wanted anything additional, they could pull together and pay for that themselves. But this is a basic cable service so that they could watch, the baseball game if it's on, or the hockey match, and those kinds of things. This process has taken way longer than it should have. They haven't had basically the use of the TV since January, I guess, or shortly thereafter, as we've gone through this process. So I would recommend passage of this bill. So anyway, okay. So we had a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
No.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Bill number 5882 is now ordinance number 4246.
Thank you. First reading bill number 5883.
First reading bill number 5883 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 14-1033 relating to areas designated as slow children areas, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this is a traffic safety bill, Bill number 5883, amendment to Article 12 through 15, Reserve, Section 14-1033, are Scheduled GG, Slow Children Street in the 8900 block of White Avenue. This bill covers an ordinance amending our Chapter 14 of the Revised Code of Ordinances for the City of Brentwood, Missouri, and amends Chapter and Section 14-1033, Scheduled GG, adding Slow Children Street to the additional 8900 block of White Avenue.
Can they comment?
Yes, please.
Well, my comment, for years I taught in Brentwood, and I really don't like the term slow children. I know what it's all about, but our children aren't really slow in Brentwood. So I kind of like caution children, but slow is all right, as long as we all understand that has nothing to do with the kids, where they are, what they're doing. Right?
Thank you. Did we look into Play Street ordinance or resolution that I thought the city had adopted a number of years ago? We had the designated streets, play areas. We did that, I know, for Sonora a number of years ago.
We're still looking for that.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Second reading, please.
Second reading, bill number 5883 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 14-1033 relating to areas designated as slow children areas, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Maybe we could just hesitate a second after you say slow and give a little time and then say children. Yeah, that might help.
Slow comment, children.
You're not the first one to comment on that one. Okay.
Your Honor,
Alderman Leahy.
by designating this block, are we putting painting on the street itself, or are we just putting
a
up the
sign.
yellow caution signs? We doing both?
Just a sign.
We're putting signs on the street to work with.
Okay. Do we have second reading?
Yes, we did.
And do we have first and second?
No.
Do I have
Motion to
please?
perfect Bill 5883 into ordinance form.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Bill number 5883 is now ordinance number 4247.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer.
If we could, before we move on to the next bill on this same topic, Bola, could you, or would you mind passing along information? Our Chief Fitzgerald recently got in touch with the community various ways regarding the ability for the communities to have the slow children or children at play
Exactly.
signage. Could you, the signs are free?
They are free. They're available at the police department. We will probably include this in the next newsletter. so that more of our residents would know that they're available. Which is a good thing.
These are
More young children in the city of Brentwood playing near streets, and we want to make sure that they remain safe and that drivers along the road are cautious of that.
So, Your Honor, this is the opportunity for the members of the neighborhood, the parents, to apply for and receive these. I believe they're semi-fluorescent painted plastic temporary signs that can be placed out in the roadway to alert oncoming cars that there are some children, and they can be taken back by the families after the playing is finished.
Right.
And they're free.
First reading of bill number 5884.
First reading bill number 5884 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into temporary construction easement agreements between the city of Brentwood and Tim and Tricia Sowers, Mount Calvary Lutheran Church of Brentwood, and Jeffrey and Karen Morrison.
Okay, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this is a continuation of some previous easement agreements that we had for the Brentwood Litzinger Road project. Our bills number 5884, 5885, and 5886 are the three remaining temporary construction easements, permanent sidewalk easements, and permanent drainage easement agreements necessary to complete the right-of-way acquisition for the Brentwood Litzinger Road project. This project will include resurfacing of Litzinger Road and a new sidewalk on the north side of Litzinger Road, and that's between Brentwood Boulevard and McKnight. The Surface Transportation Program, STP Grant Fund, will take care of 80% of the right-of-way acquisition costs, with the 20% taken care of by our city of Brentwood.
It also includes pedestrian lighting, right? Yes. Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading bill number 5884 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into temporary construction easement agreements between the city of Brentwood and Tim and Tricia Sowers, Mount Calvary Lutheran Church of Brentwood, and Jeffrey and Karen Morrison.
Okay, motion, please.
Motion to approve as submitted, Your Honor, Bill 5884.
Second, Your Honor.
Okay, first and second, roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Bill number 5884 is now ordinance number 4248.
Thank you. First reading bill number 5885.
First reading bill number 5885 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent sidewalk easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Mount Calvary Lutheran Church of Brentwood.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. It's the same for bills 5884, 85, and 86. This particular one covers an agreement with a sidewalk easement for Mount Calvary Church of Brentwood frontage between the city of Brentwood and the church.
Okay. Second reading.
Second reading, bill number 5885 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent sidewalk easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Mount Calvary Lutheran Church of Brentwood.
Okay, motion, please.
Motion to approve as submitted, Your Honor, Bill 5885.
Second.
Okay, the first and second, roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Bill number 5885 is now ordinance number 4249.
Okay. First reading of 5886.
First reading bill number 5886 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent drainage easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Mount Calvary Lutheran Church of Brentwood for installation of a storm sewer to be installed as part of the Litzinger Road Improvement Project and ultimately maintained by Metropolitan Sewer District.
Okay, this is just another easement for the road project, so we
Yes,
can
Your Honor.
just go on to second reading, please.
Second reading bill number 5886 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent drainage easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Mount Calvary Lutheran Church of Brentwood for installation of a storm sewer to be installed as part of the Litzinger Road Improvement Project and ultimately maintained by Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District.
Okay. Do you have a motion, please?
Motion to approve, Your Honor, Bill 5886 as submitted.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
5886 is now ordinance number 4250.
Thank you. First reading Bill number 5887.
First reading Bill number 5887 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a site development plan and conditional use permit to Steve Lander for a Concierge Auto Sales use at property numbered 1439 Strassner Drive, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The subject of previous public comment and public discussion, Bill 5887, petition for site plan and conditional use permit approval for concierge automotive sales, and that's the usage at 1439 Strassner Road, our planning and zoning case 14-07. This bill grants an ordinance for a site plan and conditional use permit to operate a concierge automotive sales use within an existing building located at 1439 Strassner Road. This business will be located within the Lander Binder building. Our Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval of the site development plan and conditional use permit by a unanimous vote of 8-0, with conditions outlined in the Board of Alderman rationale.
Okay. Any questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill number 5887 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a site development plan and conditional use permit to Steve Lander for a Concierge Auto Sales use at property numbered 1439 Strassner Drive, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Alderman Kramer?
Your Honor, I'm sorry. Justin, could we get a question on the record real quick regarding this bill? I don't think we covered it earlier, but just want to get it clarified. This usage will not include service of any automobiles.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We had a first and a second reading. Do we have a motion?
Motion to perfect Bill 5887 into ordinance form.
And second?
Second.
Thank you. We had a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Bill number 5887 is now ordinance number 4251.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5888.
First reading Bill number 5888 by title only, an ordinance granting amended site plan approval to Bloomin' Brands for a restaurant at property numbered 8700 Eager Road, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this covers a restaurant we're all looking forward to bringing to our city. Bill number 5888, petition for site plan approval covering minor changes associated with the construction of the Bonefish Grill. That's to be located at 8700 Eager Road, front the Drury Inn and Hotel. Case number 14-08. This bill grants an ordinance for a site plan approval for changes to the previously approved site plan for construction of a sit-down restaurant located at 8700 Eager Road, the southeast corner of the Brentwood Boulevard Eager Road interchange. The proposed changes for this includes replacement of the patio and building planters with railing and landscaping. The Bonefish Grill is unable to get the planters in time for opening. Railing will be much thinner, so landscaping will be planted in the ground instead of in the planters. Also removing outdoor fireplace to allow ADA access with sidewalk and replaced with a decorative wall, and the addition of a window to the front tower feature.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill number 5888 by title only, an ordinance granting amended site plan approval to Bloomin' Brands for a restaurant at property numbered 8700 Eager Road, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay.
Your Honor, with this changed bill, do we have a revised date proposed for opening?
They've been constructing through this process, but I think it's still scheduled for October, right?
This fall?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a first and second, please? Or motion?
Motion to perfect Bill 5888 into ordinance form.
And second?
Second.
We had a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Bill number 5888 is now ordinance number 4252.
Okay. First reading of bill number 5889.
First reading Bill Number 5889 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the Revised Code of Ordinances for the City of Brentwood by repealing Sections 6-6A, 6-16B, 6-18, 6-51, 6-101, 6-126, 6-151, 6-152, 6-153, 6-154, 6-175, and 6-176 of said chapters relating to the adoption of certain building codes, enacting in lieu thereof new sections 6-16A, 6-16B, 6-51, 6-101, 6-126, 6-151, 6-152, 6-153, 6-154, and 6-175, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay.
Wow.
Luckily, the whole bill.
Yeah, bless you.
Alderman Leahy.
Question for the city of Brentwood, if I may. When we do the upgrades in the building codes, do our building inspectors have to become recertified to the newer codes? And are they currently at that point that we're passing the 2009 because they're certified?
We've been working for, I would say, a good 6 months on making sure that all of our inspectors are up to date and comfortable implementing the new codes. So yes, we are confident in that.
You're offering training. Is there a certification requirement for the city of Brentwood inspectors?
No.
There's just a matter of familiarity and
Correct.
The arrangements.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Yeah, Alderman Kramer.
may I read the synopsis?
No, just short. Go ahead.
It's a lot shorter than the title, I think. Your Honor, an important safety and code update for our city, Bill 5889 to our Chapter 6 Building and Construction Codes. Bill adopts the 2009 edition of the International Residential Code, International Building Code, International Mechanical Code, International Plumbing Code, International Existing Building Code, International Fuel Gas Code, International Energy Conservation Code, International Property Maintenance Code, and International Fire Code. In addition, the change updates the previously adopted 2005 National Electrical Code and adopts the 2008 National Electrical Code as well. Public Works Committee recommends approval. And Your Honor, if I could just add one thing to that.
Sure.
One of the wonderful things that this does do that we've been waiting for is it allows our inspectors to require those residences that have gas service for furnaces, hot water heaters, and/or for their stoves to require the carbon monoxide detectors to be installed prior to occupancy. We've been waiting on that for a while, and that is a function and a part of this if this passes.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill Number 5889 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the Revised Code of Ordinances for the City of Brentwood by repealing Sections 16-16A, 16-16B, 6-18, 6-51, 6-101, 6-126, 6-151, 6-152, 6-153, 6-154, 6-175, and 6-176 of said chapters relating to the adoption of certain building codes, enacting in lieu thereof new sections 6-16A, 6-16B, 6-151, 6-101, 6-126, 6-151, 6-152, 6-153, 6-154, and 6-175, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Could you read that one more time?
I'll be faster.
Do you have a motion, please?
Motion to approve, Your Honor, as submitted, Bill 5889.
Second.
We had a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Bannister.
Yes.
Bill number 5889 is now ordinance number 4253.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5890, please.
First reading bill number 5890 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of certain property being donated to the city of Brentwood, Missouri, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill number 5890 covers 8128 Brentwood Industrial Drive. It's a property donation, as we just heard. The bill covers an ordinance authorizing our mayor of City of Brentwood and our city administrator to accept the donation of 8128 Brentwood Industrial Drive. The property is just under an acre, 0.87 acres. There may be future opportunities to utilize the property with future flood mitigation efforts. At this point, there are known environmental issues. Our Public Works Committee has recommended approval after reviewing Bill 5890.
Thank you. Second reading, please.
Second reading bill number 5890 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of certain property being donated to the city of Brentwood, Missouri, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Do you have a motion, please?
So moved.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Have a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Bill number 5890 is now ordinance number 4254.
Finally got through.
Okay, thank you. Next item, item 10, accounts against the city. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a warrant list before you in the amount of $94,545.05. I make a motion to recommend approval of tonight's warrant list.
Okay. Any questions? Do we have a second?
Second, Your Honor.
We had a first and second. All in favor of approving the warrant list as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, committee, reports of committee and department head. Under the mayor's report, I have two items. First, before this evening, you do have the committee recommendations for the next year. The only changes, I did reappoint a number of P&Z members. The only changes other than that were two additional library members, if I can find that. Sharon McGee and David Resner, who were both filling vacant terms. So, Alderman Kramer. Sorry, Alderman Leahy.
If I may ask the board to please turn to the last page on the Planning and Zoning Commission. There was a previous discussion in my Ward 3 meeting in which this committee and liaison issues, for some reason the reports or whatever's being passed out by the city had me listed as a liaison person. I'm not aware that that ever happened. And thus, I just want to bring to everybody's attention, this is the actual committee appointments and assignments to work with.
Right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the committee appointments?
So moved.
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Then one other item, and something for staff to research a little bit. I was at a Missouri Municipal League meeting last week, and the issue of the development block grant funds came up. I doubt that it's feasible, or if we can do it, and don't take the word out of context, but maybe if we could succeed from the county with respect to the development block grant funds. In the outlying areas, matter of fact, a representative from the city of Pacific was saying that because they don't have the county do as their representative, they go through the state development block grant fund program. And there's a much larger pool of funds available. They can also be used on a broader number of projects and help to facilitate still along the lines of improving areas that need support and those kinds of things. As an example, they received $1 million grant in Pacific to help revitalize a building to bring in a new manufacturer. So You know, I don't know if it's feasible or not, but, you know, if there is a way to do that, it might be more beneficial that we could have a bigger impact with those funds than the $20,000 a year. So we could just look into that. That's all I have under the mayor's report. Public Safety Committee?
No report right now.
Public Works Committee?
No report, Your Honor.
Director of Planning, anything further?
I do have 3 quick items. The first item is the 8750 Manchester Road Community Improvement District. Each year, as part of their annual process, they appoint a board of directors. They submit those to the city, and it's presented to the board. That information should have been passed along to you all. There are no changes to the board makeup, but they've just submitted it to the city for our files.
Okay.
The second item pertaining to the previous public hearing on the CDBG funding allotment for 2015. I apologize. After the public hearing closed, I meant to ask for a formal motion from the board on basically directing staff to move forward with the application to utilize those funds with the home improvement program.
Okay. Do I have that motion, please?
So moved, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh,
That was fast.
okay.
And then the third item related to the Litzinger Road project, I got a request from Missouri American Water today. We've been working with Missouri American Water as well as some of the other utilities along Litzinger Road, essentially trying to get as much bang for our buck as we can while we're doing the project. As part of this project, a lot of the water line, the main line that runs along Litzinger, it's kind of piecemeal, and we've had breaks along it in the past. So basically, anything that is more than probably 10 or 15 years old, the water company has agreed that they will, at their own expense, replace that line. Along with that, as part of that, their initial policy was that the city would be responsible for the reconnection of the private lines into, well, the city or the private homeowners, of the connection from the private lines that connect into the public line, because it wasn't a required project, that it's something that they escalated because of our project. We've worked with them fairly diligently. They have agreed to cover all of those costs as well. So basically, we're going to replace the majority of the water line along Litzinger Road. The project cost of that project of the water line is going to be zero to the city of Brentwood.
Right.
What they have requested for us to do, the permit fee that they would have to pull for that, they've requested that the city waive that permit fee. And so I'm here before the board this evening basically recommending that we do waive that permit fee because they've been so good to work with and that they've been so accommodating.
Do you have any idea of the estimate of that?
Not much.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Motion to waive the fee for American Water to replace the line along Litzinger Road from McKnight to Brentwood.
Okay, second?
Second that, Your Honor.
Everybody understand? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That's very nice of them.
Okay, Ways and Means Committee?
Yes, Your Honor. A few different things here. First one is we're working with staff to try to pin down our next meeting date. The committee has been working on trying to find a new meeting time each month and looking at that scheduling, possibly at the end of this month or beginning of July. The other items that we have been looking at have both been advanced back to the Board of Aldermen, the first of which is the Audit Committee proposal. This is a memo detailing the original proposal back in July 2013, over a year ago, and then again more recently updated April of 2014. And this is the proposal for an independent audit committee to be a standing committee of the City of Brentwood that would be an advisory role to our Ways and Means Committee. At the last meeting, it received a 2-to-2 split recommendation to be forwarded to the board, 2 opposed and 2 in favor of. And with that, I'll open it up to Alderman Toohey if you'd like to make some comments.
Do we have a copy of that? I didn't see it.
It is in the packet,
It
Your
is
Honor.
in the packet. Send it up to him.
This is the memo that's dated July 17, 2013.
Thank you.
Updated April 14, 2014.
I think if you saw the auditor's we had consulted as far as the internal controls recommendations. They talked about the next meeting. They're going to make some recommendation, talk about the differences in opinion between our administrative staff as well as what they saw. And I think having a body like this in the future for situations like this would greatly help the Ways and Means Committee decipher how to be the referee in these discrepancies and the differences. I also think it'd be great for transparency for the residents to see that all audit reports were distributed to the public, a group in the public that understand the audit reports and can understand the severity of any recommendations to, again, show for their transparency that the city does act on the audit recommendations, which wasn't always done in the past. And I think they would just give greater assurance to the residents. And I don't see how it could hurt to have a group of our own residents that are trained in this area to give us guidance on this.
Your Honor, if I could follow up on that. The idea behind having the formation of the audit committee would be an independent advisory role to the city's Ways and Means Committee, made up of our own residents with specialties outlined in the proposal, and not at all, I guess the word would be infiltrated, but not at all commingled with elected officials. This is an independent body that would be charged with receiving information, perhaps also being approached by members of our city or members of our elected body or residents with any kind of questions or information. And the recommendations or information to be brought to the Ways and Means Committee for their meeting purposes. This particular set of guidelines talks about a protocol for selection, the term of office, the oversight, also talks about the qualifications for the members of the committee, their scope of responsibilities, and the meeting schedule. It's, as Alderman Toohey points out, something that is seen not to possibly harm the city, but in almost every circumstance help the city in providing greater transparency, greater independent oversight with no cost to our residents.
I'd also like to add, I do think when the auditors make their presentations, they're going to really dig down the details for technical ability. I don't think the Ways and Means body has as a whole. This is a group that does have that technical ability to decipher which type of controls could be implemented and what could the city actually, for the time being, pass off on because we don't have the correct staff and the cost benefit would not be worth it. The Ways and Means as a whole doesn't have the experience to decipher, do all the recommendations, do they meet the cost benefit test? And this group does have that.
Well, you're assuming it does. You haven't selected them yet.
Well, they'd be CPAs. More than anyone else on this board.
I wanted to ask a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
And that is, I think it's very important that the staff be happy with this. Are you all happy with it?
Well, I was just going to comment. I mean, again, I tried to implement a number of years ago the process to start a finance committee. You can call it audit committee, whatever you want, but the roles would basically be about the same. I've also submitted I think I can. We've gone through so many versions, I can't remember. There have been many different versions of this. I would not support any audit committee that, one, reports directly to the Ways and Means Committee. According to this, not only is it going to be basically a report to the Ways and Means Committee, the applicants are going to be reviewed and then selected by the Ways and Means Committee and then forwarded to the mayor for his recommendation for approval to the full board. An independent audit committee, and every one of the ones that I've looked and reviewed through going over this period, the idea would be that they would, the primary function would be to help establish and select the audit firm that does the annual audit, and then evaluate that process as they go through there, and then report back to the Board of Aldermen. And I just think you're diminishing the role of the mayor, whoever that is, and the other body by thinking that this action should be taken at the Ways and Means Committee. The Ways and Means Committee, the Public Works Committee, and the Public Safety Committee have no authority to do anything. There's no reason for an advisory committee to report to them. This board is the only board that has any action to do that. And when it comes to something as important as an audit or finance committee, they should get all of the information. Again, the only thing that's going to be reported through that process, in my opinion, would be diminished because it would be going through a subcommittee first before it got to the Board of Aldermen. So if this is a proposal that's being recommended to the Board of Aldermen, I wouldn't support it, or I wouldn't recommend it for the city.
Your Honor?
Alderman Kramer?
If we could, there was a question from Alderman Nguyen about staff. Bola, do you have any comments about the audit committee? Perhaps the makeup of, or have you seen other
Well,
cities
actually, I
use
don't
this?
think well, go ahead. I mean, if you feel comfortable, I don't think it's really appropriate to put staff in a position of that when this is really a decision that needs to be made by the Board of Aldermen.
She can say no comment.
The recommendation came from the auditors, and Ways and Means discussed it at length. So I defer to the board.
I'll comment. Some of the stuff's going to be pretty trivial. If you want to bring it to a full board and determine if the accounting clerk should do duty X and the financial oversight person, Gina, should do duty Y, if we want to bring such trivial details to the board to decide, okay.
Not if you want to. You
think
have to. You don't have any authority to do that. That's not the way the city operates. A Ways and Means Committee doesn't have the authority to tell staff what to do, period.
Okay, bring it to the board then.
That's fine. I mean, that's the way it is.
Make the audit committee come to the board.
Your Honor, if I could, I think the idea behind the audit committee is not to, just as the Ways and Means Committee, we cannot pass legislation, we cannot make decisions other than perhaps trivial affirmations of recommendations from our staff. But the idea behind this is to provide a group of our own residents that have expertise to oversee information, look at information, and perhaps come up with ideas or look at things that we either wouldn't have seen or to reinforce things we may be thinking about, but to provide this independent, at arm's length ability for oversight that we currently don't have, that we have heard from our auditors would be a great idea. So this is not to try to sidestep the Board of Aldermen or to sidestep the city. What it is it's an extra tool the city can use and take benefit of while providing the transparency and the clarity that an independent body without political influence can afford us. It's almost a no-lose proposition. I'm trying to find, as we have through all of our discussions at the Ways and Means Committee level, I'm trying to find where the hardship is or where the difficulty is or the problem is. Other than maybe some don't like it, but it provides we heard from the auditors this evening, the benefits of having this separate group, as other cities in our country have taken advantage of, to bring this extra oversight that is non-political, that is separate, that provides a report that we can act upon, we don't have to act upon, we can throw it in the trash can, whatever. But it's an item that we can take advantage of that we don't currently have, and it's not to pass legislation or to create any rules or do anything other than have this separate external review. It doesn't. I can't see where it hurts anything.
Well, again, maybe there's a confusion because according to Alderman Toohey, you guys would then be able to tell staff what to do, and you're saying you're not going to be creating any rules or doing anything. So I think there's a lot of confusion in what the role of this committee would do.
I just don't understand.
Excuse me, I'm speaking. And just the first one, it says, to ensure all recommendation and findings, including but not limited to the management letter made by the city's external auditors, are published and or are I don't even know, provided to the Board of Aldermen and the residents. That's done every year anyway. Not the management letter, but the management letter is supposed to be something that's kept internally. That's why the auditors do it that way. It's a management tool for the management team to use to make their processes better. So if that's what the board wants to do as a policy, just make that a policy and adopt a resolution saying we're going to do that. Why do you, and why are you going to put that responsibility on this external committee? It's shifting the responsibility to a certain extent of the Board of Aldermen, and we are the oversight. We're the ones that are supposed to be reviewing that. Again, I've been in favor of this, but the way this is being established and the way I would be in favor of an independent audit committee that helps selection with the audit firm so that we make sure we're getting a good audit firm that reviewed the financial report that they did it once the audit, or reviewed the audit once it was published and in their professional capacity, and then made any additional comments with respect to the audit to the full board. But a committee that's reporting directly to and under the control of the Ways and Means Committee is not something that's good for the city.
Yeah.
Alderman Wayne.
I think one thing, there's nothing that's not political. There's no way you're going to go. It's not. I mean, you can do the Ways and Means, but they're political. They'll have ideas. They'll have thoughts that they want. So I think it's a mistake to think that anyone's going to be totally non-political. We're in a political world here, and that's the way things are done. So I think that's, you could say everybody will be somewhat political.
Microphone, please.
Okay.
Sorry, somewhat political.
Most of it's just going to be to just determine a lot of the recommendations these auditors make to us, which controls we should accept, which controls we shouldn't accept. I don't really see there being politics in that. I don't.
People are involved, politics.
I agree.
So I just don't know why we wouldn't want.
We can call for the question. If you're asking for this to be adopted, that's you can.
Your Honor, if I could just make one additional point. I realize this and the next issue about to come up are pastored issues, and we have differences of opinion. I think there's respect for all opinions brought to the table here this evening. Alderman Toohey has, as you mentioned, perhaps he's put some refinements on the proposal you originally brought forward, and I advocate the way he's proposed it, and I do not hold personally anybody who votes against it, but I am in favor of it.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the formation of the audit committee as proposed through the memo that's dated July 17, 2013, original, and updated April 14, 2014, for a new standing committee within the city of Brentwood.
Okay.
Second.
We had a first and a second. Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
No.
Alderman Nguyen?
No.
Alderman Robertson?
No. Excuse me, no.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Toohey?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderman Bannister?
No.
Okay.
Your Honor, the next item on the agenda is the Code of Conduct proposal. As you may recall, we had, I think it was Resolution 1002, is that correct, Bola?
That is correct.
That was almost similar to the audit committee, like a, what do they call it, a badminton bird, has gone back and forth between various areas of the city and made its way to the Ways and Means Committee. We discussed it, and Your Honor, there were some, I tried to make some enhancements, or perhaps you might say some changes to the proposal that you brought in Resolution 1002 to see if I could get some success in passing. I was unable, and in the end, the Ways and Means Committee unanimously, vote of 4-0, voted not to recommend Resolution 1002 to the full board.
Okay.
Instead, I believe, Bola, we have the board staff communications guidelines. I don't know that we have an exact date on it, but this is the group of guidelines that the Ways and Means Committee has advocated. I don't know that we need to that we're recommending a vote on that because it's already in force. It would be helpful if we got a date on it, though.
This was included in the new Board of Aldermen orientation packet that was made available to the newly elected aldermen after the 2012 election.
So 2012 is when it was?
Right.
Okay. So, Your Honor, I don't know if
that's fine, but we need to review some of that, make sure that, like the aldermen know, that in our codes it says they shouldn't be talking to the media, that's done by the mayor and the city administrator, They should refer all comments to us, those kinds of things, so that they know what their roles are, since we do have those in place already.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's it, Your Honor.
Okay. City Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. City Clerk Administrator?
Yes, your Mayor, the CID appointments of the Board of Directors that were just addressed earlier, we need
A motion?
a motion on that.
Okay.
Motion to approve the CID Board of Directors for the ACE Home Office Depot facility as submitted.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, is that it? Next item, library.
Well, I don't have a report here, but I think this would be a good time to get out and get that book that you've been wanting to read and check it out and have your good self a good time reading it. Getting ready for the kids, getting ready for the fall.
Good.
That is a good commercial, wasn't it?
Municipal League, nothing to report, although it was good that the governor did veto a number of bills this past Tuesday,
10 of
I
them.
believe it was. Again, shows the importance of needing to pay attention to what's going on at the state level. Historical Society.
No report.
We will have a closed meeting following this meeting for legal, personnel, and contract negotiations. Any unfinished business?
Your Honor?
Alderman Kramer.
If we could kind of go back to your report, some folks have asked me about it. I know that you provided some information that'd be helpful, even if it's capsulized. This is the topic of better together, and whether or not our city and county are being, I guess, advertised to by various groups as to whether we should group together or keep separate. I know you've been part of some of those conversations, or heard some of them.
Well, in a short, to give you an example, they submitted this report that came out last week or the week before, I can't remember, on economic development, and was basically a bashing primarily TIF in this report, the just as one example, one of the numbers that they use in there, they said of the oh yeah, thank you. I will. The TIFs have only created 2,700 jobs, I think is the number that they used in the report in St. Louis, and actually even tried to say that the downturn in the St. Louis region's population was caused by TIFs, was one of the lines that they tried to draw in this report. At a committee, St. Louis County Economic Committee meeting last week that I serve on, they were doing their presentation of this report. And I asked them, they always focus on sales tax with the TIF, and again, I'll try to make this short, but the other things that they never put into their analysis is how many jobs that created, and that those construction workers that live here in this region are spending money while they're doing these developments. They never mention the underlying property taxes, and I've said that most people here know it, but the promenade alone went from $60,000 in property taxes prior to development to $1 million in property taxes following that. So the school district, as an example, instead of getting $30,000 in property taxes, 12 years later is getting $500,000 in property taxes. There is an economic benefit to that. That's what pays our teachers who live in the community and then spend that money at the stores and so forth. In Brentwood alone, and I'm asking them these questions, why they don't put this in the report, and to be quite frank, they did not answer one of the questions. I said in Brentwood alone, I told up the businesses that we have here that were created, were new businesses, didn't close any other business, either new business to the regions or new stores that opened up here. We've had over 2,400 jobs just in Brentwood created by the projects that we've done here in Brentwood. So the idea that all the TIFs in St. Louis County and St. Louis City have only generated 2,700 is kind of ludicrous. But when I asked them where they got their number for that, they didn't have an answer. The other thing that is kind of interesting about it is that the Municipal League had been asking for representatives to serve on this committee making this report. Finally, it was actually May 10th, because I was actually in Jeff City when they called. They did agree to have 2 representatives from St. Louis County Municipal League on that committee. The Municipal League asked myself and John Shaw, who's the city administrator of Ferguson, to serve on the committee. And they agreed to have us on the committee that's issuing this report. The first correspondence I had with them was, I think, 3 weeks ago, Sunday evening, at about 9 o'clock, they sent me an email and said, oh, here's a copy of the report that we're issuing next Tuesday. So we never got a chance to meet with them, never had a chance to review the report and make any comments on what they were issuing. I think the underlying goal of the Better Together group, you can take the economic analysis out, is I think it's just another way of trying to take away local control for local municipalities. If you take away their ability to function financially, they can't operate. And so if you take away the ability for them to make the decisions on economic development and what's best for their community, then the cities can't function. And they want to put that in the hands of the county and have them make those decisions for us. So I think that's the ultimate goal. And that's the latest thing that they've done. We are trying to, municipal league representatives are trying to meet with them, but they always seem to never can find time for us in their schedule. So, but I will say I had a couple other questions about TIFs and economic development tools, which they just did not even respond to when I asked them at this committee meeting. So.
Your Honor?
Alderman Kramer.
Would it be fair to say that the forces that are trying to join the city and the county, or rejoin them, would be more rooted in the city in hopes that the city would be bailed out by the county's financial advantages? Or would you say that that is an unfair characterization?
Well, I would say that's unfair, because if they did it appropriately, they would. One, that this county wouldn't take on any additional liability from the city. If there was a merger, if St. Louis City became part of the county, the way the legislation should be created, it could, I take that back, it could happen that way, but the way the legislation should be created is that a city of certain size then has to still provide all of these other services, so that all of a sudden the county doesn't have to provide all the services the St. Louis City is providing, again, because of their sheer size, like, health and social services and all those kinds of things. So if it done appropriately, it could be done okay. The group that started this, actually one of the first meetings was held here in Brentwood at Metro Lighting. The ultimate goal really was to get the city and county to join together for statistical reasons. Because when you look at our national crime rating, it only takes into account St. Louis City, and we're always rated one of the top crime cities in the nation. But if you add St. Louis County, which most of the other cities or have their counties joined in with those statistics, we'd be around 20% instead of up at 99%. And so, and then as it got traction, other people got involved, and it's evolved into this other just complete mergers of the two. And there's so many different, ideas out there. I don't really know that anybody knows what their true focus is. But, and again, I don't know that joining some of those things together is necessarily a bad thing, but they have to be done appropriately. You don't want to take on the city's liability, their bonds, or their police and firemen, or I think it's just their pension debt, right. Those kinds of things. So, there's still a lot more to come. But again, the primary person behind that is Rex Sinksfeld.
Yep.
And his goal is really changing the entire tax structure of the state, not only St. Louis and St. Louis County. So,
thank you.
That's what I know.
Okay.
Any other unfinished business? Any new business?
Your Honor.
Lady.
Thank you, sir. First of all, my apologies to the Board of Aldermen for coming in a half hour late. I apologize. I had another program today. It ran a little bit later than I thought. Secondly, the Ward 3 meeting for the month of June will be Tuesday night, the 24th at 7 o'clock here. All are invited. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And I do have one other item I should have brought up under earlier. Did they have a request? Did they have a chance to talk about this at Public Works or not?
No, they
Okay.
haven't.
So last year when the GBA presented their, or 2 years ago, when GBA presented their final report on the last analysis of the rec center, as part of that, they had submitted a proposal to be our engineer, our architect, and to be our engineering company to oversee us as we go through this process of then selecting the subcontractors to do the renovations and maintenance items to the rec center. The question was asked at that time if we could put that out to bid, and I said yes. Yeah, we could do that, which we started to do. There was a lot of confusion the way the bid was put out. We had individual roofers bidding and so forth. And in reviewing that and talking to some other professionals, I'd like to recommend that we just extend GBA's work with us to be basically our engineers through this process. I don't see how it could be any cheaper to hire another company that's going to come in and have to reevaluate everything that they did and then create the designs for the roof and HVAC and have all the knowledge that they've done, and then expect that to be cheaper. It's under 10%, which is usually a benchmark for these types of services. I just think it would be quicker, then we can start the process of actually putting the roof and electrical and those things out to bid. Again, they would be our professional services provider to take us through that process. So it would be my recommendation that we just hire GBA or extend that so that they can provide that service to us. Alderman Kramer.
Point of clarification, Your Honor. Hearing your recommendation, just to be clear, right now we do not yet have a vote in place for the issuing of the bonds. Is there the financial aspect? Is that correct?
Well, we're just waiting to get these things in place so we can, because no reason to issue the bonds until we have everything
Understood.
in place.
Just
right?
clarification. So in terms of paying GBA, their fee structure would come out of the total project.
Right.
Okay. That's just a clarification.
And actually, along those lines, St. Louis County did increase the amount of money that was being allocated for park grants with, again, the additional revenue that was passed by the voters a year or two ago. Another thing that they put in there is that, so our limit went up to $375,000, I believe, from $250,000 for specific projects. But we could actually apply for these services as a separate item completely. So we could apply for a grant to fund just this service, this oversight portion of a project, and then still apply for an additional $375,000 towards whatever improvements to the rec center that we're doing. So, Alderman Lee.
If I'm not mistaken, and I'm a little off cold on this one, you're asking us to accept the professional service agreement with GBA
Right.
to move forward with the rec center. But I believe we're exceeding the $10,000 ceiling limit, which I believe requires that we do go to bid.
Well,
Thus, I'm not sure how I can say, yeah, let's go do this.
well, again, this is, and
That's
you
why
use
the
it-
recommendation.
Well, it is professional services. They are one of our selected vendors for engineering services. And if you're going to, as engineering services, if you're doing professional services, you wouldn't even ask them the cost when you're hiring them. Professional services, we don't necessarily have to.
GBA is already one of the city's on-call engineering services. So the Board of Aldermen has the ability, because they have previous knowledge and have worked on this project over a period of time, to make an exception and select them.
Right.
Continuation of theirs with a different scope.
Well, but they've already been selected as one of our vendors, right?
It is then my understanding as the way you want to present this, that the board would be voting on doing this, but the recommendation from the state auditor was that we do go for bids. Now, we went for bids when we went out for professional services, and I think we selected 7 professional service agreements that this board did pass.
Not quite 7. I think it was more like 4. For engineering services? Yes. There was GBA, there was Grimes, there was Grove Design, I believe Horner Schifrin, so there was 4.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, it's my recommend, I mean, if we want to put out to bid, it's just going to be another process to go through, but, and I just don't think ultimately you're going to get any cheaper because GBA has done so much of the footwork that the other companies are going to have to do if you hire them to come in and do it. So
You need a motion?
I would need a motion for that.
I'll make the motion just to get it moving along.
And is there a second? No second? Okay, it dies. Then we'll have to put that out to bid. We'll have to phrase that again and do it that way. Okay. It's fine. Okay. That's all I have. We will not be coming back here, so if anybody would like to address the Board of Alderman, please come forward and give us your name and address. Hearing none, do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
You would need to say why.
I already did
Oh, you did?
earlier.
Personnel,
Well,
legal?
Yeah, I did. I said them all.
For all three.
So, yeah. So we had a first and second. Roll call.
I have Alderman Nguyen and who else?
Alderman Robertson.
He second.
Okay. Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Absolutely.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Bannister?
Yes.
We'll meet upstairs.
We're downstairs.
Oh, downstairs?
Yeah, the
Good.
AC's not working.
Oh,
Good.